Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining my live stream today. We thought we would do something a little bit different today and be a little bit more personal. We're often talking about my work, which we're still going to be talking about, but we also have just some fun, more easygoing questions today. Hey, thank you for joining. It's good to see you here. Hi, thanks for joining. How's your day going? Hey, Caleb. Good to see you. Gosh, it's so absolutely beautiful today here in Portland. I'm going to have my co-host join me. Hi, thanks for joining. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. I've just been feeling really, really tired today.
Mm.
So I just, frankly, didn't want to do anything. So just good that you're here because I would have just, not done a live stream today, but it's good that I
Oh.
have people who are keeping me on track and keeping me doing my things. It's absolutely beautiful here in Portland today. I'm thinking it's going to be the last beautiful day before the big rain. So,
Mhm.
so should we get started?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so today I'm just going to be talking to Teresa about herself. So it's sort of a reintroduction for anyone new who's recently become a follower. So yeah, the first question I have is, how did you first become interested in art and photography specifically?
Well, my mom was an artist and my father was a musician, and I grew up drawing and I love to draw. And yeah, I've just always been creatively inclined. I started drawing when I was, hey Brandon, thanks for joining. When I was in fourth grade, I loved to draw I Dream of Jeannie. So that definitely dates me. And I love to draw everyone in class as like I Dream of Jeannie. If it was a guy, I would draw with like big muscles and a turban, like coming out of a bottle. And if it was a woman, it'd be like, ponytail on the head and a cute little bikini coming out of a bottle. And all the kids in class would tape my drawings to their desks. So that was like my first art show. And I think it just made me feel really good that, I was getting attention for my art. And so I just kept doing art. And as I got older, hey, Ellie, thanks for joining. As I got older, I wanted to take pictures that I could draw from because I was really into drawing. And so I started putting all these elaborate photo shoots together for a high schooler. I would like put up sheets and dress up my sister as like angels, and I would take all these amazing pictures. And then I realized that my pictures were really awesome, and I got into photography in high school, and at the time it was just really fun. But the more I got into it, I really loved the dark room and the magic of being in the dark room. And I think it was a really good way for me to express myself. I was going through a lot as a child. I think, a lot of people do. Hey, thanks for joining. Um, I think as a lot of kids, go through hardships, expressing myself with art was, I think, a lifesaver for me.
Fun. Okay, so my next question is, what themes do you pursue in your work, and in what ways has your personal life inspired your work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've been shooting for, geez, I don't even want to say almost 30 years because that makes me feel like a grandma. But so I love exploring the female figures in general, the body, expression with our body. In the beginning, when I started shooting, I was really interested in expressing what was going on in my life. So I was really just learning about my body too as when I first got started. Hi, thanks for joining. So I think in the beginning, a lot of my work was a little bit dark. It had a little bit of darkness in it. And as I got older, it got a little bit more about kind of, I don't know how to put this into words, but really connecting with nature and with God. And a way that I connect with God is through my creativity. So my work kind of got a little bit lighter and a little bit brighter as my world got lighter and brighter. I deal with femininity, what women have gone through just being women, it's a little bit in my older work too, a little bit darker about women's issues. And I also love to just make beautiful work. So work that just speaks of beauty, connecting with nature, stuff like that.
Sweet. So, what artistic mediums do you most enjoy working in?
So obviously I love to do photography. I love to do a lot of historic photographic processes, but I love to draw and paint. I think those were my first loves, was drawing. Who doesn't like to sit around and doodle while their teacher bores them, right? So that's kind of where it
True.
started, was drawing. And painting, but I love to do murals and installations and sculpture. And I love to sing and I love to write music. I love to be in bands. I've been performing most of my life on and off. I grew up dancing and singing. I really love anything that I can express myself with. I don't like to limit myself because there's so many amazing things that you can do. And I like to think it's a long life. So there's a lot of things that we can explore. I
Awesome.
like these questions. These are fun.
Yeah. Um, how have you developed your career turning your passion into a job?
Yeah, so that is, I think, everyone's lifelong pursuit as an artist, because it's not easy to be an artist, especially to make a living from it. But I think for me, it was just a natural progression from growing up. You know, I started just shooting all the time, and people would just start calling me to photograph stuff. And at first, I was turning people down because I was doing it more for the love of it. I wasn't doing it to make money. And the older I got, I was like, geez, you know, like missed opportunities there. I could have been making money with my passion. So as I got older, I started to just say yes to the things that came my way. Moving to LA was a really fun career move, because when I got there, it's such a vibrant city for creatives that I could be a model, I could be a digitech, I could be doing murals, I was shooting big billboards, and you know, working with some like really amazing musicians, like the guys from the Bravery and Weezer and stuff like that. You know, so it's really, really awesome to be able to use your skills and your purpose in life to help uplift other people's passions, businesses, ideas. And just over time, people just start to just be like, oh yeah, that Teresa girl with the camera, we should call her for this wedding. Or, oh yeah, I want to do this like calendar. Somebody just hit me up recently. He's like, I want to do like a calendar. I'm a firefighter. I was like, cool, sounds fun, you know? So yeah, just basically word of mouth.
Cool. So how would you compare and contrast creating fine artwork versus commercial work?
Wow. I mean, it's a really big difference, especially for me. And it can be tough because with your client, you have to make your client happy, which is kind of a guessing game sometimes because you don't have their brain, you know, and they can communicate well, and you would still be like, ah, this is my artistic interpretation, you know? So it can be really challenging. But I love making fine art. It's absolutely my passion. And when I'm in the moment of making art, out there shooting and producing and putting things together, I'm just like such in my bliss. And I really listen and pay attention to my intuition and let it guide me. And when you're working with clients, usually it's somebody else who's directing and guiding you. I mean, honestly, I have been working as a creative and a branding director for quite some time. So I'm mostly ish in charge. You know, I still have a boss, but um, it's really different, you know, but it's really fun to work as a team. And it is really nice to be like, hey, I really like this, but what's working for you, you know, and learning how to negotiate, collaborate, and know when to let your opinion and your vision kind of set aside for, you know, the client in general. But for the most part, people hire me because of my gifts and my talents and because of my work and because of my vision. And sometimes when I dole that down for what I think the client wants, the client comes back and goes, hey, I want your artistic expression. Like, I hired you for a reason. And you're like, yes, that's right. So that's always really nice. I'm working on a big project right now. I'm branding a healthcare company's rebranding and working now. I've done the rebranding and now we're getting ready for the website. And they gave me some feedback, which was like, so I'm working on a logo and they're like, she looks like an alien. And I was like, well, I did draw it and I just can't help it. That's the way I draw. So then I fixed it to make it look like it wasn't an alien. And they came back and they're like, that was my bad. Like, it looked way amazing with your style. We want it to look like how you originally drew it. And I was like, yes, you know, like that's why people hire you, you know?
Yeah.
So I just really want to inspire some of those people who are watching who are creatives to really step into what is your own vision. And just so you know, I've been doing this for years and years. So it's, I've had time to cultivate my own aesthetic. But what's going to be really amazing about you is your vision, how you see things, your aesthetics, and really having a mentor to help guide you into dropping into what really is your vision. And because that's in the long run why people care about your work and are going to want to hire you. I've had another commercial photographer friend say, yeah, they're hiring you because of your voice. Anyone can be a technical photographer. I mean, not anyone. It's actually can be really hard. Technically, it's a lifelong pursuit to be a master of photography. But most anyone can figure out what an f-stop is and shutter speed and all those things, but not everyone has vision, and not everyone is guided by a certain aesthetic, so it's really important.
Yeah, that's great advice. What do you like and dislike about the art world?
Oh my gosh. So many things. The first thing is it's not geared for women. It never has been. Things are slightly changing, but you you can quote me on this, but it's not exact. It's just my interpretation. It's like 1 in 1,000 women who make it in the art world, and like 1 in 100 women who make it in the photo world. And that's bullshit. That's got to change. And even throughout history, if you look back, women were making amazing art, but they weren't getting talked about. We all know about misogyny and patriarchy and all that bullshit. And that would be the thing that I would for sure change. And then also the artists are celebrated once they're dead. How is that okay? Like, how is an artist supposed to fulfill their lifelong purpose and mission if they're literally broke and not valued their whole life until they're dead? And that's obviously another thing that has to change. And it's something that obviously I feel passionate about because, I don't want to be living my whole life pursuing my passion and my purpose just to be put aside for some guy. And then now my work's valuable because I'm dead. Like, that sucks. And there's many other things, I mean, I could go on and on about that, but and it's just kind of stuck up. And it's kind of like, who even decides what good art is these days? I've a little bit, I don't want to say I've bowed out of the art world because I live in Portland, so I'm a little bit isolated from what's happening in some of the bigger cities, which is really where you have to be if you really want to be a very well-known contemporary artist. I mean, you can get yourself out there and stuff, but being in Portland is like such a joke. Like, even my price points are too much for this city, so there's just a lot of ins and outs to it, but I'll just stick with those two things for now. I don't want to complain my whole live stream.
Very good. So who are some of your biggest influences?
I have so many influences. I've been so lucky to be mentored by just so many amazing people. But when it comes to my heart, I've been mostly influenced by my mother, and she inspired my artwork and pushed my art forward and believed in me. I've looked up to so many women photographers that have long gone passed on, and some that are still alive. Like, of course, I love Diane Arbus, Sally Mann. Let's see. I really love like some of the artists that are alive, like Camille Rose Garcia, Margaret Killigan. Unfortunately, she's passed, but she's one of the first like lowbrow women artists that worked as an illustrator-ish. That kind of her and her husband Barry McGee really helped kind of start the whole lowbrow thing that I just really loved growing up and felt like it was more my style than like the contemporary, like boring landscapes that you would see in Utah all day long. They kind of showed me that there was a different way to make art. And then mentors like Dennis Meekham, Joe Murata, Lance Clayton, people who I grew up in my community who either showed me a camera, taught me how to use a camera, taught me about the dark room, mentored me throughout my young career as a photographer. And then when I was living in LA, I was working with some bigger mentors, more in a professional manner. Chris Davies, he owns Fabric Magazine. I got to help produce some of the biggest photo and independent art festivals in the world. So that was not necessarily how to be an artist, but how to really bring community together and help express and celebrate art in a big, large form. And then other, independent gallery owners, Om. Some people call him Om, so I call him Om, but Om Bleicher, he owns BG Gallery. He's been a mentor of mine since I lived in LA. He's believed in me, he's believed in my art, and they've been representing my work for some time now. And that's like just a real quick list. But I think as an artist or a photographer, you definitely need to find mentors, and not just one, like many. Work with one until you feel like you've learned what you want to learn, and find another mentor, and learn something else. Maybe you're learning fine art from one photographer and commercial from another. Maybe one photographer is really good at business, and maybe one shoots weddings. As what's so fun about photography is it's the crafts that you could not always completely master right off the bat. So it's just good to always be working, challenging, and shooting new things.
Awesome.
So
So what are some of your, oh, sorry.
someone just asked a question. Can we answer it real quick?
Yeah, do we want to wait till the end? I have like one
Yeah.
more, and then we can
Let's wait till
go
the
through
end. I
these.
just don't want to forget.
Yeah, there's like three in here, so we'll go back to this. My last question though is, what are some of your goals for the future?
I have a lot of goals right now that I'm working on, and long-term goals. One of my short-term goals, well, it may be a long-term goal, but I'd like to think it's a short-term goal, but I'm really looking for a retail space for Alien Mermaid Cove and saving up money to really just jump and make that happen. I've been working on that business for 4 years. I do need to buy a new camera, a new printer. I do need like a whole up level in my business, so I'm working hard to create those things. Um, I really want to buy a van. So I have some personal goals. I really want to buy a van that I can travel in the summers and on the weekends to go camping and use it for Alien Mermaid Cove to like gather things. I'd love to buy a house. I'd love to do more traveling. And with my photo goals, I've done so much amazing stuff. I don't really have any particular goals for my business besides just shooting more and creating more work that I'm really excited about. I'd love to have an art show soon. Hopefully once we get Alien Mermaid Cove a retail space, hopefully I can also have like a big art show when that happens. So yeah, that's just like some quick ones. Oh, and we're in the middle of a fundraiser right now. Hello. Well, we're really trying to raise $30,000 so we can get our retail space. I guess I'm a little bit like bummed about it because it hasn't like really taken off, but also it's really hard to ask people for money all day long. Like at this point, I'm just really doing my best to try to make the money myself. And I'm going to be frank, I'm exhausted, which is one of the reasons why we're late to this live stream is like, I work from 7 to 5 every day. I'm working like 10 plus hours a day. And then I work on my own business until 10, 11 o'clock at night, which is sometimes why you're getting late texts from me, Alyssa. So, it's just really hard to like have a vision and know that like financially you're just not quite there yet, and just to do my best to be patient and let it come to me when the time is right. As someone who's spent most of my life forcing things to happen and really pushing things to happen, I'm in a place where like it's just time for those things to happen for me without having to like be in like so many like hustling vibes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, if we're ready, we can move into the Q&A part. So I'm gonna scroll through here real fast. There was a few I saw earlier. Okay, somebody asked who are your top 5 musicians, and actually somebody else asked what music inspires you with the little sticker earlier. So yeah, if you want to talk about your musical influences.
Oh, we love that. So music is one of my lifelong passions. I've not only loved to dabble in music, but a lot of my friends are musicians, and one of my blisses is to go to shows. When I lived in Utah, I would go to a show like 4 times a week. I just absolutely love music, and my all-time favorite band is Led Zeppelin. So I grew up with a lot of classic music, but then I really got into like alternative emo. I don't know what the kids call it these days, but underground music. I love post-punk. Basically, I love all music. Lately, when I lived in LA, I was really into kind of underground female experimental hip hop artists. And lately I've really been into Babe Rainbow. And I guess they're kind of called jam music, or like kind of like jammy dancey music, which is funny to me because I never thought I would be into jam bands or whatever. But and I really love like Abra and Tommy Genesis. That's more along like the hip hop underground experimental women's stuff, which I freaking love. And in my imaginary world, I have a project like that. But I've been in a lot of psych bands on and off most of my life. I love psych rock. I kind of like heavy stoner rock. And yeah, just absolutely am inspired by music. it's inspired my art a ton. Great question.
Awesome. Somebody else asked, how do you get out of a creative funk?
Whew, right? Gosh, I'm going to be honest. I've spent years in a creative funk, and it's tough, especially when you're used to producing and you're used to being in a flow, and then you hit a funk. For me, it's just a reminder to take care of yourself, self-love, self-care, and have balance. I haven't lived my life in balance. I'm going to be honest. I've lived my life as a workaholic. And like even today, it's hitting me like I am exhausted. So I think you have to just like for me when this would happen, I would just be like, I'm the worst, I'm a failure, am I going to ever make good art again? And the truth is it's a long life. There's no hurries. It's great to be like prolific, but also don't you want to make great work? And that comes with taking the time to take care of yourself, taking the time to have relationships and things in your life that make you also feel fulfilled. And to know that, you know, right now, maybe it's just not meant for you to make art at this exact moment. And to be honest, not everyone's made to make art. Not everyone's supposed to be an artist, and I think really dropping into what really is your purpose and where it is that you really need to be. And, because I've had moments where I'm like, am I supposed to be an artist? And then I'll like take 2 months out and then I'll be like, yeah, I just needed a break. Everyone needs a break. It's totally normal. And it's good for you. And having a balance it's important for a life of happiness and longevity. But there is nothing like making art. So I get it. I get why people are just like in the nonstop flow of making it because it's fulfilling and it's fun and it's rewarding and it's beautiful. And for me, I just get blissed out when I make it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And I feel proud of myself. But after being in the art world and after making so many beautiful images, I kind of remind myself of my pro skater friend who's like, yeah, I only go out when it's like the perfect asphalt with the perfect wheels, with the perfect breeze, because he skated so much, that, I've taken so many photographs that like, if it's not like the perfect model in the perfect place with like, the thing, like there's no need for me to go out and waste time, energy, and a ton of photo space on my computer, space on my computer. So you get to a point where you want to start like up leveling and start challenging yourself, and that can be bigger and bigger productions and more pushing yourself, there's a lot to it. But for me, it's just really taking the time out and not making yourself be inspired. I mean, you can't fake that and everyone knows it, but sometimes if you do just get out and just start shooting, then you're like, oh, here I am. I'm good at this. Like, why? Almost every time I go shoot, I doubt myself. Like, it's funny to tell people that after I've been shooting for so long because, I still am like, oh my gosh, am I going to be good at this? Is this going to turn out good? And then you get home and like the first photo you see, you're like, that's epic. I literally didn't even need to take one more photo, But of course, I took another 2,000. So, which Alyssa gets to deal with.
For real.
Okay. It's just really just knowing that, let's see, how do I want to say this in a really, I guess just trusting and just the flow of all of it. And it really is like, to me, the artistic flow is the flow of the god or goddess or source or, whatever. And source has got you, source loves you, source isn't going to leave, source is always there, you just got to tap into it. I don't know if anyone has ever read any of Elizabeth Gilbert's work or seen any of her TED Talks, but she's really helped me through my artistic journey. She's a writer. She wrote Eat, Love, Pray, but she has a TED Talk that talks about the intuition and how intuition can just like, basically that it's like you're channeling God, basically. And sometimes if you don't channel it and you don't like do the work, that it will skip you and go to the next person because you weren't ready to write down the poem, and sometimes you just need to be like, it's 3 a.m. I don't want to be up all night. Like creative gods, like come back tomorrow, and it's always there. It's just really learning how to tap into it. I've been lucky that it's been a natural thing for me, and I didn't realize that it wasn't always natural for other people. I'm naturally, I'm a Pisces. I'm made to be an artist. I'm a natural intuitive, but that's not always innate for everyone, but learning how to listen to yourself, how to step in, how to be guided by God. I know that's a trigger word for a lot of people, but let's say how to be guided by your intuition, your inner God. I don't know if that's going to freak people out, probably, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we'll close with this question because it's kind of fun. Are you influenced by any films?
I love film. I also love like TV series. I love stories. I love being visually stimulated and engaged by other creatives. There's just so much amazing work out there. Um, Holy Mountain. I think that's all I have to say if anyone's seen it. But there's a lot of really like cool visually stimulating work out there. But Holy Mountain like freaked me out. You have to watch it. It's so cool. It's definitely inspired a lot of my work, but I loved Harold and Maude. I love some of the 80s, 90s pop culture films. There's just like, oh my gosh, it was like a Hungarian film that I saw that was just so beautiful. Workmeister Harmonies, a WERK. It's all one long shot, and there's not a lot of talking. And then there's a scene that like made me bawl like a freak because it was just like so vulnerable and beautiful. And it was like an old man who was in the shower and he was like showering. And it sounds kind of weird, but the way that it was shot, it just kind of like reminded me of an experience that I went through with my mom who passed on, who was really sick. And towards the end of her life, I would bathe her and shower her. And it just felt like that. It just had the feeling of like frailty and like, anyways, it was just like beautifully shot. It was just so pretty. And just like that it's one long shot. I mean, who can do that? That's insane. And people who shot on film back in the day, like, you know, shooting film is not easy and it's expensive and you really have to be on point. And the people who shoot digitally have no idea how easy they have it. In fact, I do believe that people who shoot digitally shouldn't even be called photographers because it's just a whole different thing. I think they should be called image capturers personally. I like to teach people that. Unless you know how to shoot film, you know how to develop film, you've worked in a dark room, you shoot manually, you're not a photographer. You're an image capturer. Anyone can push a button, especially on these expensive, nice cameras these days. So I just say have a little respect for the people who've spent a lifelong pursuit of a craft that you actually need to know how to be a technician to use. That's my little rant for the day. But I think Harold and Maude. I love Interstellar. It's probably one of my favorite movies. I watched it twice in 24 hours. It blew my mind so much just because I already mentioned I'm a Pisces, so I love space and depth and the way that time overlaps. And it's not even real, really. You know, it's not linear, and we could be living all these different things, different lives, even at the same time. And black holes and stars. It's just like is amazing. But I think the movie I always go back to is Pride and Prejudice. I think my romantic inside loves that she's a strong woman and she's like, no, you're not good enough for me. And he's like, you're right. And he goes and he does all the things and decides to become a better man, you know? So of course I always watch that when I'm feeling down. And it's just beautifully shot. And you know, who doesn't love romance? I mean, and it's probably my all-time favorite movie.
Love that. Okay, well, if there's anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the live stream?
Let me think about it. You did ask, I think the first question, what was your first question you asked me? I think I want to go back to that.
Yeah, I asked how you first became interested in art and photography specifically.
So there was a story I did want to share about this because it is close to my heart and I think it says a lot about me, and I know a lot of you are here because you want to know more about me. So when I got out of high school, I started taking classes at the Art Center, and I first of all just loved the magic of the dark room, like being able to use light to create this image. You know, it's just like very magical. Obviously I know it's technical and there's chemistry and there's all sorts of other stuff to it, but the fact that you're, you know, drawing or painting with light. And one day, you know, just keep in mind I'm like an 18 or 19-year-old who at the time was in the process. I had lost my father to cancer, but then my mother was sick and she was dying of AIDS. And this was in the 90s where AIDS was definitely something that people were freaked out about. It was super scary. And I had kept it a secret my whole life just so we wouldn't get discriminated against, because when people would find out, people would throw apples and be like, your mom has AIDS, and people are, you know, it's just a lot of just horrible things had happened. And so I ended up keeping it a secret, even from some of my best friends. So when I discovered photography and discovered that I had a voice, I started doing self-portraits. I photographed my mom throughout her whole journey living and dying of AIDS, which to me is my most important work that no one has really seen in the last little bit, because it was in the beginning of my career. But, you know, that intimacy that I was able to share and give my mom a voice and give myself a voice when I couldn't share about it. But I was in the dark room, and I had an assignment that my teacher gave me, which was to do a self-portrait. And so what I did is I went into the basement of my house in Sandy, Utah, which is super suburban and so conservative. And the windows, we put a thing over the window so it was dark. And I did a long exposure and had my mom sit in a chair. And it was a long exposure so you could see all the light that was burning in. And I had duct taped her mouth, and it was a double exposure where when she stepped out, then I stepped in. And it's really kind of funny because our dog at the time really loved to be photographed and would always want to be in the photograph. So it's actually in the photograph too. So you see like my mom duct taped, and then you see me like superimposed over her, which was me really expressing like, I can't share this with anyone about this horrible secret that I've had to live with as a kid, you know, which is really tough. And my mom was just so awesome because she just knew I had such an artistic spirit. So even though she didn't necessarily look perfect or her hair didn't look great, she was always game to let me photograph her as a real person. And so I was producing these images in the dark room, and one of the lab techs was like, what are these images about? They're so strange, you know? And I'm just like, well, and I was just a kid, right? I wasn't in a place where I even had a voice where I could even express myself. I was just kind of dumbfounded by that somebody was so drawn to my work. And I was like, well, what do you see? And she's like, I see someone who has a secret. Someone who wants to say something who can't. I see this darkness, but there's this powerful light burning in through the windows. Like I see this young lady who's feeling lost, you know, like all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like she sees my soul, you know, which is what's so powerful about art. You know, it's not only you get to express how you feel it, but other people get to also feel it. And so I remember leaving the art center and walking home. I lived really close, and I walked home and I felt all those feelings that you feel when you're in love. Like you feel like super scared, like, oh my God, somebody saw my vulnerability, somebody saw my heart, somebody saw my secrets. And then you're like, oh my God, I have a voice, like I'm powerful, like I have something to say, you know? And it was just such a moving experience that I decided to follow that bliss throughout my life. And anytime I felt scared, I would push through it because I knew there was something there for me. I knew there was something either I needed to say or I needed to learn. And my soul was guiding me that way. And then I realized that being scared is sometimes also being excited and being, you know, there's your soul being like, yeah, this is super scary, but this is exciting, you know? And when you get a taste of that as an artist, it can really fuel your work. And I was able to completely like dive in to my heart during a really hard time as a kid. And that's one of my lifelong passions, is to also help other people explore that, tap into it, and give them a safe space through like my mentorship program and just even my internship program. And, you know, it really helped me get through some really hard times, and forever my mom's legacy will live through my work. So, and I wanted to share that with you because you asked it in the beginning, and I didn't want to get too heavy in the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, but also this is why people make work, you know, and powerful work comes from within. So I just want to encourage you all to go out there, and if it scares you, push a little bit, see what happens, see if you can open your heart up to it, bring down your barriers a little bit, step into it. You're feeling scared to be in love, like try it just a little bit, you know, like you never know what could happen. So yeah, that's my big share for you.
Thank you. Well, if you're otherwise finished, then I think we're good to end the live stream.
Okay, and you asked if there was anything else I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So, of course, I want to say thank you to you, Alyssa, for your ongoing support and hard work. You rock so much, and you're just in the beginning of your artistic journey, and I can't wait to see what you do. It's just the beginning. And obviously a big shout out to my whole team who helps me just stay on track, keep going every day. as I mentioned, it's hard to be an artist. And if you don't have support, it's kind of hopeless, you know? So the fact that people care about my work, care about what I do, I just thank you all so much for stepping into my live stream, saying hi, caring about my work, all the likes, comments, all the shares, telling your friends about my work, buying my work. I couldn't do it without all of you. I appreciate it so much. I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. Enjoy the day, Portlanders, because it's the last sunny day. And I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you at our next live stream. Thanks, Alyssa.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you.
everybody. Hi,
Bye.
Noel. Hi, everybody.